Hello friends, this is Scott, and this is part 5 of my 2021 year in review, and this is the Smoky month of August. We have tons of western wildfires last August, and so every night we had orange or pinkish orange skies. Football season's full swing. As you can see, here's one of the games where we had a real smoky night. Now my brother-in-law's store, we got him all moved, and the store opened up without missing a day being closed, so that was awesome. Got all of his back stock and supplies moved over and ready to roll. So it was stressful but good. Now August, we started out with a nice hawk visitor. And he's a little bit too small to take on the chickens, or at least he hasn't tried yet. But he is getting the small birds, and here's a pellet they regurgitate after they eat their food. Kind of gross, but it's kind of cool. The flowers at my home garden are kicking in strong, or remaining strong. The roses are obviously in full bloom, midsummer. Hibiscus are still putting on new blooms, but they're still having their dish-size flowers. The trumpet vine is flowering, and so those are coming in really nicely. The hummingbirds like those. The magnolias, I don't have many of them, but the red one bloomed very nicely in my yard. It's a pretty flower. This one's another type of Rosa Sharon. It's blooming on a bush. And the daisies, you see some of them have died off, but they're still putting on blossoms. The pink coneflowers are taking over really nicely. And what's neat about the sunflowers is I buy these bags of black oil sunflower seeds for the wild birds. And they just, it's amazing how many different varieties are in that black seed. You'd think they'd all be the same, but they're not. And I don't plant them in my yard, the birds do. So we'll have sunflowers from now on because I fed them. In August, the apples are forming nicely, and even some of them are starting to blush a little bit, get a little bit of color. And I have a second apple tree that has apples. I didn't notice at first, but they're kind of a greenish apple, but they're growing nicely also, a little smaller. But excited for apples this year, first time. Now the dwarf peach trees are producing peaches, quite a few. As you see the color here. Beautiful. And it was time to pick them about the third week of August, as there were quite a few. Always got to have a taste test before you start picking, and this one showed that they were ripe and ready to roll. Beautiful, tasty fruit. Like every good vlogger, you got to keep your action shots going. So here's me working hard, picking. And I'm just sitting here kind of just taking my time. And these fruits I'm picking here are very small. They smell good, but they're not very big. There's some bigger ones on this tree. Here they are. Here's some bigger ones that I picked, and it's filling up my harvest basket. And I think I got 1.5 to 2 harvest baskets worth of fruit this year. Not as many as I did last year because one of the trees did not produce very well, but nice. And filled up the counter pretty well. And what we do with these is we just boil them just enough to get the skins to slough off. As you see here, here's some simmering. And here's some that we've not skinned yet, but we've already boiled. And I love to crush limes. You have lime juice because we always put lime juice in with our peaches. Mix it in before we put them in freezer bags. And here's us skinning them, I should say. And putting them in a pot and adding the lime juice. Got a couple bowls full, or pots full, I should say. And we only got 6 bags. We had 10 bags last year. We had 6 freezer bags. And just good-looking fruit. We'll enjoy it all winter. Now, the blackberries were still producing a little bit in August, but they started to slow down by the mid-August. What was exciting about August is the winter squash. This is the delicata squash, and I'm going to show various stages of development. But we were able to harvest some of these and actually eat them. And so, being winter squash, that's by name only because they don't ever make it that long. They start turning a little yellower as they get older. Here's a look at cut in half with the seeds. And we just hollow them out, take the seeds out, and we stack them in butter and bake them at 400 degrees for probably 35 minutes. And they're tasty. We ate them all to the skin. I even got some of the skin, it looks like. Now the buttercup kept producing from their little button caps. And you see they get to a nice green color. I got quite a few of these going in the garden. And some of them, not all of them, had these weird bottoms on them. So I don't know what that was, if that was a hybridization or a cross. But like I say, not all had them, but we had quite a few. Now the spaghetti squash, here's a immature spaghetti squash. But they got very big. We had two really large spaghetti squash, bigger than you'd find in the grocery store. Here's a look at one that was pretty good size next to one that's not ripe yet, but it was big. And they're very tasty. Spaghetti squash is my favorite squash, and we enjoyed these. And for the next several months, we had several we put in storage, but they didn't last into December. Now here is a flower of a banana squash, kind of a different flower. And banana squash is the latest of the hard winter squash that I grow. And but when it starts to grow, it grows slow to start with, but once it starts, it really takes off. Every day, the fruit just gets crazy. Now the soft squash, the zucchini and the crookneck, the bees were still pollinating it very well. And we ate lots and lots of squash. Here's a bunch of crookneck and zucchini. And at my home garden, the zucchini, I can stay on top of them, pick them at the right size. Here's some jalapeno peppers that by the end of August turned red. And the cayennes were just loaded in the earth boxes. And we had lots and lots to pick, and we decided this year we ground them up, we dried them, ground them up, and made our own cayenne pepper flakes. So they're very tasty. We've been using them this winter, so nice fruit. In August, we started getting some tomatoes. Here's some golden cherry tomatoes. As well as in my home garden, we got some fairly decent-sized tomatoes. We always got to talk about 16-year-old drivers, 17-year-old drivers, and we had this happen in August. So, shit happens, I guess. Now, at the project garden, I'm taking a look at the corn to start with. And by the end of August, the corn was nice and tasseled out. And the ears had been forming all month. And the silks were turning brown and drying up. And by the end of August, we actually had sweet corn, and these are nice size ears. Not all of them were this nice, but they were well formed, good pollination, and very, very tasty. Enjoyed these corn very much. Again, there was a lot of smaller ones, but the large size ones were awesome. Now, before I show you all the other vegetables that we were harvesting in August, I'm just going to do a little quick look at how overgrown and messy the August garden is. Haven't been over here a lot, been coaching football, and the days have been hot and just been busy. So I come over here toward the end of August, and you see there's still lots going on here. There's beans right there. Look in here, take a look. Still got lots of beans going on. Got to keep them picked so they keep on growing. I was a little slow, and I think I slowed them down a little bit. I could have got better harvest if I'd been over here more. Still some beets. And then in this mass of green, we have carrot tops. As you see, a whole row of carrots. So we're looking forward to picking some carrots this month for the first time. Have some peppers here. And looking in here, let's see what we got. I think these are green bell peppers. They're still growing. So you can eat them at any stage, but they need a little longer. And we got some jalapenos. They're doing good. And looking through some more, there's more still forming. And I think I find some Anaheim. Yep, there's some Anaheim peppers. And they're ready to pick at this point. Continuing on down the row, taking a look here and seeing what else we have. And I think we delve in here. There's some nice weeds growing, some tumbleweeds, but we have some eggplant. And there they are. There's one anyway. Needs some more time to grow, but they're edible at this point. Now looking at the Swiss chard, take a quick look here. There's lots of chard. And I'll show you more of a close-up of the chard in a minute. And then we have the brassicas that still have some broccoli on, some small side stems have sprouted. And there's still a few heads. That's a little sunburned, and it's well beyond what it should be growing at this point in the heat of August. But they don't look pretty, but they were still tasty. So we took them home and ate those. And other brassica plants I'm going to take to the chickens once I just pull the whole plant. But there are some red cabbage. It's a slow-growing cabbage right there. So we've got those. And when I do harvest that, I'll just again take the plants home and let the chickens enjoy them because they love to eat the full plants. And we still have other red cabbage tucked away in here also. So there's 4 or 5 probably in here that are still waiting to go. And we scan back over. There's a zucchini, and you see a corn there in the background. But then we got some really good-sized zucchini. When they get to this size, they're too big just for stir fries. They're just good for breads and make zucchini bread and things like that. But a lot of those this time of the year. And next to the zucchini, we scan over and we see cucumbers. Now, we shouldn't see yellow cucumbers. That just means I haven't been over here, and those are overripe fruit. But there's lots of good cucumbers in here. Here's an example of one, and this is the perfect size. So I just snip it off, and that's a good eating cucumber there. And scan back around, and we look at the leeks a little bit to the left. This is where the onions were. And here we're taking a closer look at the potato blossoms. They're still producing lots of blossoms. I did pull some up just to see how they're doing, and they were small, but not going to pick them because they're still producing flowers. Now here's the Swiss chard. I told you I was going to give you a little bit of a closer view, and there's very little bug activity going on here, so they're just beautiful. Homeowner doesn't like Swiss chard. It's too bad. Here's tomatoes, and they're by mid to late August. They're flushing nicely, and we're getting a pretty good tomato crop. Not quite yet, full on, but that'll be September. And we always have a freak tomato that we've got to show you. There's always something that kind of grows kind of interesting, and this is one of them. Now the carrots, this is the first carrots we harvested this year, and they're looking great. And excited for carrots. There's something I can't grow at my home garden. I don't have full sun, and the soil's just not quite right. So I always get some small carrots, but never this nice. So I'm excited to have carrots. We're going to freeze a lot of these. And they're just nice and washed. They're beautiful. Lots of zucchini. Again, this is a good variety of the sizes that we're picking from the harvest garden. And cucumbers. Like I said, there's lots of cucumbers. Well, here's the proof. And we're still getting turnips, and they're good size. I'm not a big turnip fan, but I eat them. And the green beans keep on coming. And I love green beans to mix it with a little bit of bacon and oil and butter. It's just tasty. Now here's kind of a standard little harvest in August. You get a little bit of everything. You get the beans, the cucumbers, you get a little bit of broccoli, which is over, it shouldn't still have a broccoli, but we still get a little bit. Getting some ears of corn and lots of zucchini and carrots. So that's kind of tells you what August is all about harvest-wise. Every month I got to talk about the apple tree that I butchered early in the spring, and this is more proof that it's doing well. And it's hard to see with all the grapes, grapevine's green, but it's doing well. And in about the third week of August, we were able to go up to Park City, and you can see the smoke and haze in the background. This is downtown Park City, Utah. We went to a friend's house for dinner, and just kind of a unique view. They live in a pretty nice house and overlooking the downtown, and it's kind of a different view. Not everybody gets to see this view of Park City, but it is smoky. Lots of fires out west still. Well, thanks for watching part 5 of my 2021 year in review, and look forward to the month of September, and we'll see how far we get on the next video. Thanks for watching.